International Trade and Small Business Minister Mary Ng was grilled today over a breach of ethics.
We know there was a failure to recuse. We know that you further the interest of a friend to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. Full responsibility. Do you think you should pay back the money?
Are you suggesting that you didn't know this was going to be a conflict going into this? That you need training on what is the most basic pecuniary interest for your close friend?
I failed to recuse both times. The commissioner found that that was the error. I accept that error.
Ng was found to have broken conflict of interest rules twice by participating in decisions to hire communications firm Pomp and Circumstance. The ethics commissioner found Ng should have recused herself from those decisions because of her 20-year friendship with company co-founder Amanda Alvaro, a regular panelist here on this show. Now, Minister Ng apologized to the House, but the ethics committee launched an investigation. Okay, I want to bring in some MPs to talk about this. Ontario Liberal MP Iqra Khalid is the committee's vice chair. Michael Barrett is the Conservative ethics critic, and Heather McPherson is deputy whip for the NDP. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, thanks.
Pleasure. Ms. Khalid, I'd like to start with you and the standard for ministerial accountability here. I remember when Art Eggleton resigned as the defense minister for giving a contract improperly to a former girlfriend. I mean, have the standards lowered here when all you're getting from Mary Ng is an apology?
Well, I think I trust and I respect the judgment of the ethics commissioner. I mean, there was a full report on this, and the ethics commissioner, what he has said, and the whole regime, and then the whole report, I think speaks to what has happened here, which was maybe a technicality of the minister not being able to recuse herself from a contract.
Right. So, but a technicality when it comes to ethics rules is a breach of judgment at minimum. I just wonder if Minister Eggleton 20 years ago resigned, why isn't Minister Ng resigning? It's not up to the ethics commissioner to determine that. It's up to her. It's up to the Prime Minister and his advisors.
Well, based on her apology and her appearance today in the ethics committee and the report that was provided by the ethics commissioner, I think that, with the commitment to do better and to have more open, transparent government, and maybe to look at the rules that govern us and the ethics around how we conduct ourselves as members of parliament, as ministers, is probably the better way to go. Minister Ng has done phenomenal work over the pandemic, but since her appointment, small businesses in my own riding were able to get a lot of the supports that she was able to communicate, to provide. And I think my constituents are quite satisfied with the work that she's been doing.
Okay, I want to circle back on that point, but I want to bring in Mr. Barrett here. I mean, Mary Ng said today she knows better and she'll do better and she's sorry. Is that enough?
No. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, we have, this semi-annual affair where we have the ethics commissioner find ministers guilty of breaking federal laws. And, this isn't a technicality. It's a law that was passed in Canada's Parliament, and it's there so that Canadians can have confidence in their elected officials and their public institutions. And in this case, tens of thousands of dollars at a time when Canadians were hurting badly and very concerned about their small businesses, tens of thousands of dollars went from a minister to a close friend. And that's no technicality. And to your point about ministerial accountability in the past, we've seen that with governments of all stripes, where ministers tender their resignations to their prime minister when they've when it's been detected that they broke the law. And in this case, this wasn't something that an internal review determined. There was a complaint filed by my colleague James Bazan, and the ethics commissioner found, yep, it was bona fide, and in fact, Minister Ng broke the law.
Okay, broke the law, but this is not a criminal code violation. These are, I'm not trying to minimize it, but just I want to define terms, so accurately. So Ms. McPherson, based on that, she did violate ethics rules, ethics guidelines, was found very clearly by an officer of parliament to have done that. They seem to say it is no big deal because she said she was sorry and they're ready to move on. I mean, where are the New Democrats on this?
Well, I mean, every single member of parliament takes training on what ethics code we are meant to follow. Every member of parliament gets the training. The fact that the minister wasn't able to distinguish this, it shows a pretty shocking lack of awareness, a pretty shocking lack of judgment, to be perfectly honest. And I have to say, like Michael said, this is something that's happening at a time when people are struggling. This is another example of this government giving money to their friends while regular Canadians can't meet their rent. Regular Canadians are suffering. Like, this looks terrible. Of course it's great that she apologized. But really, I mean, this is just one more indication from a government that is not showing that they have a very good ethical compass, to be honest.
Ms. Khalid, I want to get back to your point that small and medium-sized enterprises were able to take advantage of the suite of programs that were rolled out in response to the pandemic, and that it's obviously clear thousands of companies across the country did that. But wouldn't they have been able to do that without Amanda Alvaro and Pomp and Circumstance getting a contract?
Well, with putting it into context, I mean, you look at, how quickly things were evolving. How do Canadians get to actually know what programs are out there to help support them? How do we communicate as a government? How do we, get to Canadians in the forum that they are getting or receiving their information from? And I think that being innovative, being nimble, being quick in how we got that communication was paramount during this really, really critical time for Canadians and especially small businesses,
right.
and to giving that information to them.
But, I remember that time because I was working around the clock, like a lot of journalists were, and this was carried live on every television station in the country, uninterrupted, from Rideau Cottage to the Sir John A. Macdonald building to wherever ministers were briefing people on this. The information was being delivered directly live to people on every platform in Canada. So why the need to go to outside help to get media training and social media products?
Well, the question is, were media channels telling people exactly who qualified, how they qualified, where they could go to get that support? And, we do appreciate that, our media plays a huge role in getting that information across, but there are so many Canadians that rely on, social media platforms or other platforms that we're just not on. And so getting that innovative way of the communication to Canadians, I think, was really important. A lot of people were looking to find out exactly how they could survive during this pandemic. And so I think that communication piece was absolutely key in ensuring that Canadians' well-being was maintained during the pandemic.
Mr. Barrett, then Ms. McPherson.
Look, the minister had 104 communication staff at her disposal. And going outside, to a friend with contracts worth tens of thousands of dollars at a time when, to your point, it was wall-to-wall, 24 hours a day, every channel you turned to, this information was there. With all due respect, Ms. Alvaro didn't invent those social media channels, so there was no, innovation. If this is content creation, well, the minister has in-house staff who she said today are competent and professional, and I believe her, and able to do those things. So what value for money were Canadians getting here? I don't think much, and so we called for the taxpayers to be made whole. They should get the money back, and that's why we asked for the minister to resign. It's inappropriate. Right,
and just one little point: the 104 communications people, we heard that today. That's the staff inside all of Global Affairs Canada. I don't know if they would have all been available to ministering, but certainly somebody would have been available. She had staff,
and she has 4 dedicated political communication staff at her at her sole disposal. So this was lavishing on top of that additional staff.
Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, but it's really not about the communications contract in my mind. It's the fact that it was the fact that it broke ethics rules.
Absolutely.
And the fact of the matter is, with all due respect, Ms. Iqra is justifying an ethical lapse, a breakdown in ethical standards by saying we needed communication tools. You know what? If the government needed communication tools, that is one thing. That's a different discussion that we can have at a different time. The discussion here is the ethical way that contract was handed out, and the failure of the minister to recognize that giving money to one of her very, very good friends is really a problematic ethical dilemma for Canadians.
Right, and we should point this out that Amanda Alvaro is a paid, frequent political commentator on this program, so we know her quite well, as well in a professional sense. But Ms. Khalid, you're outnumbered, so I'm going to give you the final word here on this. I mean, where do you think this goes from here in terms of whether Minister Ng's position as a minister is tenable at this point?
Well, I'll say we heard from the Deputy Minister how long it takes for a competitive contract to go through the process, how long it takes to hire staff to go through the process, and how long it takes for a sole source contract to get through the process. We were in a pandemic situation where we really needed to communicate with constituents. The Ng report and the Ethics Commissioner has been quite clear. Yes, the minister was not able to recuse herself, and as she should have done. She has since then apologized and has now taken training for herself and her staff to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And the commitment to open, transparent government is continuing. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are able to deliver to Canadians to the best of our ability as quickly as we can. And I appreciate that Mary Ng has been committing to that.
It sounds like sorry, not sorry to
Yeah,
me.
You're not accepting the apology?
Well, it's great that the minister apologized, but there's a lot of justification built into that reply. Trying to move quickly, that's not acceptable. We have rules in place. They were passed by Parliament. If the government doesn't like the rules, they should try and change them. But, Canadians are expected to follow all the rules, all the laws that are in place. It's certainly a minimum standard that ministers should. And if they can't, they need to find a different job.
I agree. That's an apology, but that's an apology, but. And when there's a but after it, it's not really an apology, is it?
Okay.
And I will say that I don't speak for the minister. I'm giving, my take as Vice Chair on Ethics and just being a member of Parliament for the past 7 years and seeing how we operate here collectively and going through a really tough time during a pandemic to ensure that Canadians are well supported and that we are working towards a speedy recovery.
Okay, that is going to have to be the last word. We're out of time. Iqra Khalid, Michael Barrett, Heather McPherson, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.